What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Hurricanes Unfiltered, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. I am your host, Rudy Rodriguez. So hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell. That would mean so very much to me. I greatly appreciate y'all continuing to support this channel. Had a great night tonight doing Hurricanes Unfiltered live. We were on for, God, I think over 2 hours. One of the longer Hurricanes Unfiltered lives that we've had. So I appreciate everyone who jumped on board. Remember, we do this thing every Monday night, 9 p.m. I'm thinking about adjusting the schedule a little bit. I may put a post up and see what people think, but if they'd like to have more of a consistent, like I can't do every day as far as live with Hurricanes Unfiltered, but I can potentially do maybe 3 times a week and schedule it maybe earlier in the day potentially. I don't know if that would be of interest to people, if that would be something that people would like. But I am going to put up a post and see what folks want because I think that maybe I need to do more of them. I have a bunch of different live shows, so it is hard to squeeze them all in because I do have a live show on Sunday, a live show Monday, a live show on Wednesday, and then I try to fit in other lives, with events and so forth. So I'll put it up there. Let's see what y'all think. But I appreciate y'all continuing to support the show. We're gonna do something different, man. We've been here now. We're in the off season. Officially, we are truly now in the off season. The transfer portal situation is all over with. We got our guys. We know who we got. We know what we're looking to do, and we now have to, you know, find some topics to entertain you with, and hopefully you enjoy them. Things that make you go and then there is recruiting that we will be looking at occasionally. That's not really my area. I'm not one that's going to be putting out every time we give somebody an offer. Will I talk about it if we get a commitment? Sure, I guess I'll talk about that. But I'm not gonna be every time we make an offer to somebody, I'm not gonna make a big freaking deal about it. It's just that's not my thing. There's enough channels that do that, and definitely check them out because they will give you all of that if that's something that you're seeking. That's not something I'm gonna be doing a lot of. I'll do it occasionally. I mean, transfer portal is completely different. Whereas we're giving a 16, 17-year-old an offer, they'll change their mind 6 times before we get to this day. So that said, we're gonna do a series, and we're gonna start it off like this. And just I'll give you a background of it. We're gonna do something called the top five lists, and I'm sure you probably have seen tons of top five lists in your time. Heck, I did them when I was inside the U. I mean, I did it. There were written versions that I did years and years ago, and some people agree with some of them. Some people disagree with some of them. We are going to have our opinions, and I'm going to give you my top five for every single position on the team in the history of the Miami Hurricanes, and this is my opinion. So it is what it is. If you don't agree with it, definitely leave your comments. Let me know who you think should be in the top five. We're going to start off with quarterback. I mean, that's obviously the main position on the field, the quarterback position. I mean, we have had some great quarterbacks in our time here at the University of Miami. And with the way college football is right now, it's definitely different. So you have to consider the fact that if you don't look at players who have only played 1 year here, then what is this list really? Because really, the difference with the quarterbacks from back in the day and the quarterbacks now is that at least back then, they would typically play 2 seasons, because we developed quarterbacks from within. A freshman. I mean, you got typically a junior is playing. There's a freshman. There's another freshman, or a freshman and a sophomore, and they're backing them up. And here comes the junior. The junior's going to play. The junior plays his junior and senior year, and then the freshman or sophomore battle it out for who gets the next spot. And a lot of times it might be that freshman. So then you go again. Now this guy got junior, senior year, etc. Now with the transfer portal, you have Cam Ward come in. You got Carson Beck come in. You got Darian Mensah come in. Obviously, Darian Mensah will not be in this conversation because he hasn't played a singular down yet. But we will consider the successes of those that have come in to the transfer portal because it would be unfair not to. That said, let's jump in on this list right here. We're going to start off. Let me circle back though, but before we start, we're going to start how this is how it's going to go. This is the rules. These are going to be the rules. And this is very important because a lot of times people will talk about guys and say who are the best guys to come out of school, etc. And they'll forget that the best guys ever at the school are when they were at the school. Like, give you an example. Tim Tebow at Florida is the best quarterback ever in University of Florida history. Is he the best quarterback ever out of the University of Florida? I don't know. I'm not a Gator fan. I couldn't tell you. Genuinely, I couldn't tell you. I don't know who the most successful Florida Gator quarterback has ever been in the NFL. But this list is not about the NFL. This list is specific to what that player did at the University of Miami. So keep that in mind. This is not about what they did in the NFL. This is about what they did at Miami. So with that note, please remember that as I go through this list. And if you want to disagree with me, that's fine. I appreciate your disagreement. You probably will disagree in some instances. In other instances, you won't. A lot of stuff will be recency bias based, could be recency bias to certain people. I've been watching the Miami Hurricanes for my entire life. I'm 48 years old. I did not see 70s football, so it's very hard for me to give criteria on 70s football. So what I'm going to do here on top of that is I'm going to put another note in this one. The player has to have played since at least 1980. I cannot intelligently speak about someone that I never saw play. If you can, feel free. I am not watching film on Ted Hendricks, so I am not going to be talking about Ted Hendricks. Like, for example, for defensive linemen, no matter how great he may have been, I cannot speak about a guy I never saw play. That said, let's jump in. So 1980 to now, and it's what they did at Miami. My number 5 is Bernie Kosar. Bernie Kosar was the beginning, man. He was the true beginning of the Miami Hurricanes dynasty. He won the first national championship at Miami as in 1983. He was 201 for 327, 61.5% completion, 2,329 yards, 15 touchdowns, 13 picks. Not exactly the greatest year, but guess what? He won at the right damn time. He won at the right time. 11-1, wins the national championship over Nebraska. Miami loses that first game of the year 28-3 to Florida, and then rolls off 11 straight wins, including a 20-0 win over Notre Dame, a 20-3 win over West Virginia. Notre Dame was ranked 13th, West Virginia was ranked 12th, and a 17-16 win at Florida State in the season finale prior to playing Nebraska in the Orange Bowl and knocking off the Cornhuskers 31-30. His next season, I mean, he was spectacular, but the Miami Hurricanes' success was not spectacular. He actually was 262 of 416, 63% completion, 3,642 yards, which was a lot of yards back then. I mean, you folks, 3,642 yards for a college quarterback in 1984 was a lot of yards. Remember, 12 games, 25 touchdowns, 16 picks. Remember all them picks that you complained about Carson Beck this year? Bernie Kosar threw 16 picks in 12 games. Different type of football, though, because back then, quarterbacks actually threw the ball. And that's what happens. Like, you don't see, you got these guys that don't throw picks. It's because they're throwing a bunch of swing passes, a bunch of checkdowns. When you challenge people downfield, you're going to have picks. It's going to happen. So Bernie Kosar, he was the beginning of it. I know people might say Jim Kelly, but he was the first national championship in Miami. That was Bernie Kosar. So I got Bernie Kosar at number 5. Moving right in, the guy that backed up Bernie Kosar. Who was that? That was the one and only Vinny Testaverde. Vinny Testaverde was Bernie Kosar's backup, and then he took over the job in 1985, led the Hurricanes to a 10-2 season, had an opportunity to win a national championship, lost to Tennessee in the Sugar Bowl 35-7. Obviously, a very disappointing ending when you consider how close the Canes were. They were ranked number 2 in the country. Penn State lost in their bowl game. Had Miami beaten Tennessee in that game, they would have won the national championship. Sucks. Yeah, this is one of the many national championships that the Miami Hurricanes have lost. So it sucks. It absolutely sucks. Now, Testaverde, great season, 216 for 352, 61.4 completion, 3,238 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, 15 interceptions in 11 games, average almost 300 yards passing per game. And then the very next year, Vinny Testaverde goes and he wins the Heisman Trophy in 1986. Miami Hurricanes have the baddest team on the planet. And unfortunately, the baddest team on the planet found a way to lose the game on the wrong day. Vinny Testaverde was a 175 for 276, 63.4%, 2,557 yards passing, 26 touchdowns, led the country in touchdown passes, led the country in average yards per attempt, led the country in quarterback rating at 165.8. He won every major quarterback award. The Canes were 11-0, prohibitive favorites to win the national championship before losing 14-10 to Penn State in a game that will forever go down in infamy because the Miami Hurricanes absolutely freaking dominated the game in every facet except for the one in which they lost, which was turnovers. Vinny Testaverde had the absolute worst game of his life, a nightmarish level of a game. And it's one that will live on as one of the more painful losses in Hurricane history. Testaverde threw 5 interceptions in that game, including one in the final seconds. You almost have to wonder if something was going on, but he threw 5 picks. Now consider the fact that he threw 9 picks the entire season. He led the team to a 23-15 win over Florida, 13th ranked. He beat Oklahoma, number 1 ranked, 28-16. He beat Florida State, number 20 ranked, 41-23. I mean, the Hurricanes that year were absolutely dominant. They really didn't play a close game all year until the national championship game, and the turnovers killed them. Like it was just that simple. But Vinny Testaverde was a Heisman Trophy winner. He was a tremendously successful quarterback. He was in his 2 years as a starter. He was 21-3 as a starter in '85 and '86, and unfortunately, it didn't end the way you would want it to end. Coming in at number 3 is Gino Torretta, the Heisman Trophy winner from 1991. Gino Torretta, he played 4 years at Miami. Gino Torretta he played a lot his freshman year due to an injury for Craig Erickson. He was a part of 2 national championship teams. The first team was in 1989 when he played a bunch of games that year, but he actually was the quarterback for the one loss against Florida State up in Tallahassee, 24-10, I believe it was, up in Tallahassee. But Miami recovered. Miami recovered from that loss and was able to come away with a national championship after beating Notre Dame in the last game of the season. Actually, they finished 11-1 that year. They had wins over Pitt, 14th ranked Pitt 24-3, beat Notre Dame, who was ranked number 1 in the country, 27-10 in the Orange Bowl, and then played against Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, won 33-25 over a 10-1 Alabama team. And in that particular season, that was when was it Notre Dame? Notre Dame had beaten Colorado, I believe it was. I'm just going off memory, people. By the way, so let me check real quick. 1989 AP poll. Yeah, so I confirmed that was the year that Miami came into the bowl game ranked number 2 behind Colorado, undefeated Colorado. Colorado played Notre Dame in their bowl game, and Notre Dame won that bowl game over Colorado, which allowed Miami, after beating Alabama, to win the national championship and be crowned national champs for the 3rd time since 1983. Miami ended up being number 1 in all the polls, and Miami was national champion. Now, Gino Torretta did not play as much that next year, but he did get on the field as a junior in heavy minutes, and that is when the Gino Torretta party really began, as he in 1991 led Miami to an undefeated 12-0 season with blowout wins over David Klingler, led Houston 40-10. I remember that game actually. I'm pretty sure it was David Klingler. Beat number 1 Florida State 17-16 in Tallahassee. That was wide right 1, and beat Penn State 26-20. And then it was ranked 9th. And then, of course, finally beating Nebraska in the Orange Bowl 22-0. It wasn't like it is now. Nebraska was ranked number 11. Miami ended up having a split national championship with Washington, in large part because of closer than they would want to win over Arizona. And then they started doing the comparisons, and Miami ended up winning, coming in, getting the AP nod, whereas who was Washington got the nod in the coaches UPI. I guess they called it the UPI poll back then. And that year, I mean, Gino Torretta. Let's pull up his numbers here. You find it. So Gino Toretto was 205 for 371 for 3,095 yards, 55.3 completion percentage. Again, this is back when people threw the ball down the field. 20 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 8.45 your average yards per attempt, 15.1 per completion. That should give you an idea that when they threw the ball, they threw it down the field. 281.4 yards per game, 138.8 QB rating. He led the conference at the time. That was the Big East Conference. He led the conference in every major statistical category except for touchdowns as a quarterback. The next year, Miami goes 11-0 in the regular season, is ranked number 1 before losing to Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, 34-13. That was the nightmare game where um, George Teague ran down Lamar Thomas on that big play that could have turned the game around. It was a rough go that night with Derek Elastic just ground and pounded Miami into submission. But Gino Torretta had a spectacular year: 228 for 402, 56.7% completion, 3,060 yards, 19 touchdowns, 7 picks, 278.2 yards per game, and he won the Heisman Trophy, Maxwell All-American, First Team, Walter Camp Award. He won pretty much every award that year. I mean, he had receivers like Horace Copeland, Lamar Thomas, Jonathan Harris, just a crew of superstar level players, and had a very, very strong year. The obviously disappointing way to end the season that year. He had wins over Iowa on the road, ranked 23rd, 24-7. That was 19-16 over Florida State. That was wide right 2. Beat Penn State 17-14 on the road in Happy Valley when they ranked 7th. Beat Syracuse on the road 16-10 and ranked 8th. And before losing to Alabama in a 1-2 matchup in the Sugar Bowl, which unfortunately did not go Miami's way, and Alabama wins the national championship. Now we're looking at number 2. This is where you're going to have some questions, and maybe you're going to disagree with me, and maybe, hey, you probably disagree with me on the first few. I mean, we have a lot of great quarterbacks at Miami. I mean, we've had some really great players at Miami who have done a lot of great things while at the University of Miami. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you figured out that Steve Walsh is not on this list. Craig Erickson's not on this list. Jim Kelly's not on this list. Stephen Morris is not on this list. Malik Rozier is not on this list. Obviously, obviously Kyle Wright's not on this list. Um, I mean, there's a special place in my heart for Scott Covington though, because he was the guy that got that W over UCLA when they were ranked number 1, and we ruined their season, and he got carried around the Orange Bowl. There will always be a special place in my heart for that guy, for what he did there. But let's go into number 2. And number 2, you may agree, you may disagree. I don't know. But it is going to be Ken Dorsey. Ken Dorsey, as a college quarterback, is arguably one of the greatest college quarterbacks in college football history. You would be hard pressed to find someone who disagreed with that. Ken Dorsey came into the University of Miami in 1999. He played in 6 games, got 174 for 120 with 807 yards passing, and that was the year in which the Miami Hurricanes were starting Kenny Kelly at quarterback. For those of you that don't remember, Kenny Kelly was a quarterback out of Tampa Catholic, and he also played baseball. And he was a starter ahead of Dorsey. And there was a point where Kenny Kelly got hurt, and Dorsey stepped in and played admirably. He wasn't perfect by any means. He was part of an absolute ass whipping by Virginia Tech, 43-10. He played against FAMU. He played a little bit against Pitt. He started against Rutgers, 55-0 win over Rutgers, a 45-13 win over Syracuse, a 55-0 win over Temple, and he played a little bit in the bowl game against Georgia Tech that the Miami Hurricanes won. But at the end of the day, what ends up happening is now the Miami Hurricanes are left with a decision to make, because you clearly got 2 quarterbacks that are quality and solid dudes, and you could see the ability that Ken Dorsey had. It was I remember it was like people were a little surprised that they went back to Kenny Kelly for the bowl game and against Georgia Tech, but then Kenny Kelly wanted to play baseball, and the Miami Hurricanes did not want him to play baseball in the summertime. So it left Miami in a tough situation of look, you either play football or you can kick rocks, and he kicked rocks. And Ken Dorsey became the starting quarterback the next year, and that was the greatest thing that could have ever happened to the Miami Hurricanes at the time. Because I don't think Kenny Kelly would have gotten Miami to where Ken Dorsey took Miami. So Ken Dorsey comes in 2000, goes 188 for 322 for 2,737 yards, 58.4 completion, 25 touchdowns, 448 yards per point eight per yards per game, 152.3 quarterback rating. He led the conference in mostly every category. Only threw 5 picks, 14.6 yards per completion. Miami was an absolute wrecking ball that year after losing at Washington 34-29. That was the worst game that Ken Dorsey played. I mean, probably in his career at Miami. Um, but the Canes recovered, and then they played McNeese State the first game, and then they went to Washington, which is a very very tough trip. And that was a really really good Washington team, a Washington team that ended up going, I believe it was 11-1. They ended up going 11-1. So it was a really good Washington team. But after that, Miami rolled off a 47-10 win over West Virginia, 64-6 over Rutgers. They go beat Florida State, who's ranked number one in the country at the time, 27-24. They beat the hell out of Temple, 40, and that was after Miami had lost to FSU, what, like 5-6 straight years. I mean, gotten crushed by FSU for a number of years. Beat Louisiana Tech, beat Virginia Tech. So Miami beat two number one ranked teams in the country in the same season. That should give you an idea of how good that team was. Miami beats Florida State, number one in the country, and then beats Virginia Tech, who was number one in the country, and blew Virginia Tech out 41-21. Beat Syracuse 26-0, crushed Boston College, and then absolutely steamroll the Florida Gators in the Sugar Bowl 37-20 after kicking their ass on a Bourbon Street fight as well. Ken Dorsey was a fantastic leader. He was a cerebral type of assassin out there at quarterback. We all know that Miami Hurricanes should have been in the national championship that year, would have played Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl, and would have absolutely annihilated them. And everybody knew it. Everyone knew it. But FSU got in due to the computer rankings of the BCS, that bullshit ass system. But next year, the Miami Hurricanes were a team on a mission, and Ken Dorsey was the head of the snake. He was 184 for 318, 57.9% completion, 2,652 yards, 23 touchdowns, 9 picks. 14.4 yards per completion, a 146.1 QB rating, finishes third in the Heisman, wins the Maxwell Award, leads the Big East in multiple categories. Miami Hurricanes go 12-0 and win the national championship. And behind this team that starts off the year beating Penn State up on the road 33-7. Smacks around Florida State in Tallahassee 49-27. That's the Ed Reed game where you get the halftime speech. Crushes Syracuse 59-0, crushes Washington 65-7, gets by Virginia Tech. That was a scary one, 26-24 on the road at Lane Stadium. But that's why special teams are so important, because that was a special teams situation there, if I recall correctly. Okay, I'm doing this all memory, people, so forgive me if I make a mistake. That game against Boston College, that was the Ed Reed game where they're driving down the field. I remember exactly where I was when that game happened. I was actually at FIU South and watching it on TV from the Graham Center at FIU South, and you're watching and you're freaking out. You're like, how the hell is this game this close? And they drive the ball down the field, and Matt Walters gets that interception, and Ed Reed takes the ball from him and runs it for a touchdown. Miami wins 18-7. Then Miami, of course, goes on to win the national championship, crushing Nebraska 37-14 in the Rose Bowl, and Miami's national champion. Miami goes on the next year to play for the national championship again. Dorsey goes 222 for 393 for 3,369 yards, 28 touchdowns, 12 picks. He averages 259.2 per game, 445.9. Again, he led a bunch of categories in the Big East, finishes fifth in the Heisman Trophy race. And unfortunately, it does not end well. We lose to Ohio State. We know the game that we all thought we won. And so instead of finishing his career as a quarterback as what was it, at 39-1. He finishes his career as a starter at 38-2. Led a 34-game winning streak during his time at quarterback. I mean, Ken Dorsey was a sensational. His NFL career did not pan out, obviously, the way you would hope, because he didn't have the greatest arm, unfortunately. But the guy was a smart guy, a smart quarterback, knew how to play, understood the position, took advantage of the weapons that he had, and he balled out. And I will forever love I will forever love watching Ken Dorsey play quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes. Number one, again, you may disagree, you may not, but I think it's really hard pressed to not say Cam Ward is not the best quarterback in the history of the Miami Hurricanes. I mean, what Cam Ward did on the field for the Hurricanes in one season was nothing short of some of the most spectacular stuff I've ever seen from a college quarterback. He was amazing, 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 amazing on every level. You only had him for 1 year. He did things at times that made you want to pull your head out, pull your hair out. I don't have any hair to pull, so I pulled my body hair out. But he did those types of things where you do that cross body throw that didn't work out versus Cal, but other games worked out just fine. Cam Ward goes 305 for 454 for 4,313 yards. He finished second in the country in passing yards, 67.2 completion percentage, 39 touchdowns, led the nation in touchdowns, only threw 7 interceptions, led the conference 9.5 yards per attempt, 10.52 per average yards per attempt, yards. I'm misreading something here. 10.52 per attempt, 14.1 per completion, averaged 331 yards, 0.8 yards passing per game, which is crazy. 172.2 QB quarterback rating, leads the Miami Hurricanes to a 10-3 record. Does not play the second half of the bowl game, otherwise they would have gone 11-2. Obviously, the season did not end the way we would have hoped for, but Cam Ward was the reason we were in every game. I mean, the shit that dude did was otherworldly spectacular. The way he would keep plays alive, the way he'd move around the pocket, the way he would escape the pocket when he had to. Like Cam Ward, you gotta understand, Cam Ward's a pocket quarterback. Anyone who doesn't understand it, don't get it twisted. He's not a running quarterback. He's not a mobile quarterback. He's a quarterback who's mobile when he needs to be mobile. But he's a guy who wants to throw that ball first. He has a rocket launcher for an arm. His accuracy level is crazy sick. And his time at Miami was otherworldly spectacular. And he set this tone for the future of the Miami Hurricanes football program. He will go down as the most important player, at least from a transfer portal perspective, but probably the most important player over the last 20 years. And because he changed the way people view the Miami Hurricanes. And let's be real, he's the reason that probably one of the reasons that Carson Beck came to Miami. He's probably one of the reasons. I'm sure Carson Beck saw Cam Ward's career just explode coming to Miami, and I just think that Cam Ward's presence here changed so much. I think Cam Ward's one of the reasons that Darian Mensah decided to come to Miami. It's the Cam Ward experience. Miami had the best offense in the nation with Cam Ward, scoring and yardage. The dude was otherworldly sensational. Like if you look at the games that he had that in 2024, I mean he had a game. He threw for 385. That game at Florida, 385 in his opener. Like you see that happen, 74.3% completion, 385, bro. And then he got 304, 346, 404, 343, 437. That Cal game where he throws for 437 yards leads Miami from 35-10 down to win that game 39-38. Otherworldly crazy. 319 against Louisville, 52-45 on the road at Louisville. Hell, 208 versus FSU. That was the shit. That was the bad game he had, really. And we won 36-14. 400 against Duke, 53-31. Hell, he threw for 348 against Georgia Tech. We lost 28-23. We all know what happened there. Largely, that was that lengthy ass, forever long drive because our defense couldn't get off the field. Wake Forest, 280. Syracuse, the game we lost 42-38 because against the defense could not finish the job. 349 yards. and then he finishes it up in the bowl game playing half against the Pop Tarts Bowl where he throws for 190 in a half. Cam Ward was that dude, man. And anyone that disputes that, I mean, I challenge you. If you think it's because he didn't play long enough at Miami, that's fine. I respect that opinion, but it's about what you did, when you did, how you did it when you were here. And Cam Ward is the greatest quarterback that ever played at the University of Miami. It's period. I don't think it's even close. Uh, as much as I love Ken Dorsey, like he's not close to what Cam Ward did here. Just craziness. There are some, honorable mentions here, and I think Carson Beck is one of them. I mean, I was real close to having Carson Beck on this list. Some people might call me crazy. I was. I mean, what Carson Beck did here in 1 year, having come off an elbow surgery, I mean, just spectacular. So he was close to being number 5 on this list. I almost put him on that list ahead of Bernie Kosar personally, because I would have Cam Ward probably. I mean, Carson Beck probably at number 6, ahead of Steve Walsh. I probably would have Steve Walsh at 7 and Craig Erickson at 8, and then from there on, there's other. I mean, maybe Jim Kelly at 9 or what have you. But that's my list. Y'all let me know what y'all think, man. I got Cam Ward, Ken Dorsey. I just brain farted. What the hell? Gino Torretta, Vinny Testaverde, and Bernie Kosar. Let me know y'all list. Put in the comments. Let's debate. Let's have this conversation. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell. This is Hurricanes Unfiltered, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. Come on now.